Welcome. This is a recording of adults playing or talking about tabletop games. This means that adult language and/or themes may occur within that could be seen as inappropriate for younger audiences. Thank you. Hey guys, Verci here, or John, and I just wanted to go over how the campaign went the other night. It's the next day. I went ahead and I went to bed and thought about everything, and decided to do it now. So, how did I feel it went? Awesome. I thought the night went really, really well. A lot of everything went well. The fight was fairly quick, which I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be intense, very fast paced, and very, exciting. I felt that my character as Seb did a fantastic job of doing what he needed to do and actually exceeding it. You'll see in the video I was crazy excited when he killed Ichabod. And he got that really like oh shit reaction out of the players when he did it. So that was a really big success. I know Kiro was a little disappointed with her fighting, but unfortunately, if you go and you watch the videos and you look at her rolls, she just had an absolutely horrible night rolling, and I felt really bad for her. Even Andrew playing Biscuits made a comment about it. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," because it was just brutal. She was hitting all the time, but Sebastian's armor for that match was 7, and her damage was a consistent 8 across the way, and she got 0 stunt points the entire night. So she just had an absolutely horrible night, and I felt really bad for her, but there wasn't much I could do. The dice fall where they fall, and the Roll20 system has a very good random number generation, so I know that it's not a problem with the system. It's just bad luck. As to the rest of the session, they got to meet Robert, which is a hat tip to Jim Butcher and his books. I had that planned a long, long time ago, probably once after the first session. I had written Robert in to that, and just so you guys know, I'll always be putting little like hat tips to favorite authors or authors that I enjoyed their novels. I'll put a character of theirs in there, things like that, for fantasy and sci-fi particularly, or like a very famous literature writer. I'll put a bit of their name in there. So keep your eyes out. Nothing I do is particularly original. A lot of it is influenced by stuff that I read. But yeah, they met Robert. They found the third book, which I didn't know if they were going to find. The gray book, I put it in there, and I actually had it so that even Seb didn't know that the book was there. So it was really interesting. I think it was Nate playing Flowers that was really, he's like, man, there's no reason that this room is just here. And they found the third book. They don't know what it's about yet. There's not all the page. A lot of the pages are missing because it's integral to the story. I guess is the best way I could describe that. And so now they have 3 books. They have a bunch of really fat loot now. Really awesome role playing by Andrew last night with his biscuits with the crystals. That's also a hat tip to another author, but you guys will figure that out as the story goes on. I don't want to just be like, oh, it's obviously this, and then you guys already know what all that's about. But it is from a story, so I tilted it and manipulated it and changed it a little bit, but there is a lot to that. And he did a great job of having the moral ambiguities of stabbing some railroad spikes, glowing green railroad spikes into his eyes, and he tried it, man. He fucking put those down on the floor, and he was about to smash his face into them. And I wasn't ready for that, to be honest. I really thought it was going to take them more time. I didn't actually expect Ichabod to die. I expected the whole like Ichabod's glowing green railroad spike eyeballs to come up later, but The dice rolled in great favor for Seb. He did his at the very end. You know, he picked up his sword and he threw that SOB, and just all the dice were insane. I mean, I think I was 18 off the top of my head. He rolled for the hit, which I was kind of expecting a good hit, and also he had a hand of fate on himself, so he was gonna tilt his dice no matter what to get that roll. Um, and but the damage, oh, the damage was insane. He did, I think it was like 28, 25, something like that, damage with that sword when he finally threw it, and that was epic in proportion. So I was really excited about that. In case you guys were wondering about the character that Seb was playing, he was a level 4 fighter base, and he had the first his fourth level thing was a Ether Knight, which is a class that was built by the Google Plus community for Fantasy Age. I can't remember the author of it, so props to him. I did not come up with that. And basically, it gives a fighter class a dip into magic. So he did a little bit of that. He had the Hand of Fate on him, and I tweaked him slightly, where I actually had him have 2 schools instead of 1. And basically, I did like 2 novice level spells. He had a heal, and he had Hand of Fate. That was just integral to kind of who he is as an NPC, with the whole holy and God and manipulation and stuff like that. I felt that that was really important, so I did a little bit of a cheat there in that regard. But I could have just as easily just hand waved and been like, "Oh, God just heals him," but I didn't want to do that. And the reason being is I wanted to make him powerful enough that he could handle a couple rounds of the players, and if the players did just insane amounts of damage, he could actually start healing himself a little bit. And really, it wasn't too bad because like the maximum amount of magic he could do was literally 1 heal and 1 Hand of Fate. So it wasn't like he was like insanely overpowered. Once you get higher, the class gets significantly more OP because you have more mana available to you. But yeah, he just really pulled out the stops, and he really did a great job. One thing I did after the session, I had rewritten the rules a little bit for my homebrew. I changed the power of guns a little bit. I had to redistribute the ammo for the weapons. One of the things I wanted to make sure is that players had to reload a lot, like once or twice per session of combat, and what I was running into was that Zach and Nate never had to reload, ever. And they could basically just ride it out until they had just an exorbitant amount of stun points, and then at that point do a rapid reload with their stun points when they just are like, I don't know what to spend all these on. And then once they had one of those, they'd be like, oh, I guess I'll reload. And it never felt like they had to. And I really wanted to make them have to like worry about that, because that's kind of important. I mean, you can't have someone being able to do the same amount of damage at exorbitant distances without some kind of negative effect. And so I wanted to make the reload a larger mechanic, so I did that. I did keep the rifle in there, and kept it all exactly how it is right now, which is what Nate was using. However, Flowers, I did completely change his weapon. I made it so that like getting a rifle is a significantly further down the road weapon, and which would make a little bit more sense, and gave him a SMG, which is a new type that I built. It's a 1d6 plus 3 weapon at half the distance of the rifle. And that was to kind of put it a little bit more in line with the rest of the players and their distances and stuff like that. And it really showed why I needed to do that in this last session. Flowers just had this insane shot, did 25 damage after the armor with Andy pierced. I mean, like, he did a really good roll, so like I'm not gonna like hate on him too much. I mean, he just rolled phenomenally on that, but it just really showed how powerful his gun could be. That he could be back 8 squares and dish more damage than anyone else in the group total in one shot. And I was not happy with the feeling of that, not because he was able to do that. I mean, props to him, and it was hilarious, and we talked and bullshitted around it with it afterwards. You know, but like even he knew when I'm like Nate, we got to nerf your gun, and he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, I get it. And he's like, that shot was really cool, wasn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it really sucked for Seb. He took out a third of Seb's life right off the bat. And I just couldn't have that kind of power in the game because it nullifies everyone else. Zach said it afterwards when we were hanging out. He showed up right at the end of the session. He was out at a party. I think it was his birthday party. And he said, he's like, you know, I'd like to be able to get to something and kill it. And that's kind of the mentality that I really felt I needed to do, is to roll back Flowers to have that damage later on. You know, let him have room to grow, because right now him growing would just be stupidly overpowered and make the other players not feel like they're doing anything special. You know, and so that was a really big thing. It was really unfortunate. I hate nerfing people. I think that the idea of the nerf bat is just an absolutely terrible concept for games, particularly video games. However, at least in this instance, tabletop games, it's a lot more necessary if you do homebrews to be able to do nerf batting. But yeah, other than that, it was a really great session. I wasn't expecting the church whatsoever. Luckily, I had the church ready for him. That's just one of the maps that I have that I kept, you know, set up, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to the church," and I'm like, "Well, shit." The Hellhounds was a predicted, premeditated event that was going to happen somewhere at some point on their way back. I was originally thinking it was going to be in a street. Like, you know, they were going to fail some sneak rolls along the way. I was going to make them do a bunch of sneak rolls, and then boom, there's some Hellhounds. And everything was going to happen, and they were going to hide and run away. Instead, though, they were like, "Oh, let's go investigate this church." And I'm like, well, shit. But I had the map ready. I just had to throw in all the tokens, had them start talking, telling me what they wanted to do. I already kind of figured that they're going to block a bunch of doors and stuff. I mean, you can kind of predict how they're going to work after the bar incident. And so I just had them do that while I started throwing in all the tokens. And as soon as they were pretty much done, all the tokens were set. I started, you know, dictating that there was some stuff happening, because I already had the Hellhound NPC sheet already set up in Roll20. That was already sitting there waiting. And so I had them dive right in. And it was not a fight that I intended to have them actually do. They already had their really cool round of combat. And I didn't need them feeling like they weren't going to win. They absolutely, if they stuck around there, absolutely would have killed those 5 Hellhounds without much trouble. The Hellhounds were already injured. But I needed to introduce the horn. That was a really important part of the storyline. And so kind of like all at once, I had the guy show up to, like, you know, lead him down into the cellar. And the horn blow to give the players enough time to run away. Kiro, playing Ren, was just absolutely belligerent, and she did not want to run away. And I really needed her to start double timing it, so I made the horn stop the Hellhounds instead of like them continue chasing. Originally, the Hellhounds were probably going to, like, supposed to chase them all the way up into the church, but to get them to get going. I did the horn and the stopping of the thing to kind of speed it along. and we finished right on time. It was awesome. We actually finished, and immediately after, the Skype went down again, and with our 4 hour video limit. So it was fantastic timing on our end. No issues with the video this time, and yeah, it was a good night. I was really happy with everything. I made players feel bad when they got the letters from Seb. Um, Flowers and Ren both felt bad about killing him. Flowers, he felt really bad. Ren felt really bad because she felt that there was a lot of potential role play for her character and Seb, and there was. If he would have lived, there was a lot of role play that I had prepared for him and her, but it just wasn't meant to be. The players killed him, and so a lot of them. I think the only person that didn't feel bad was Andrew. He was really excited to kill Seb, which is in line with his character a good bit. But yeah, I mean, like the joke that I always have, and this is something if I was gonna have some DM tips or a DM tip, it's to make sure that every session your players get oh shit moments, whether it's emotional or crazy cool combat, something that happens, you introduce something, just get that moment where all of them are like, fuck. In this session we had 2 of them. We had Seb killing Ichabod. That was a big oh shit moment when that happened, and then we had the oh shit moment on an emotional level when they got the letters from Sebastian and made them realize that there was a lot more to him, and they ended that. That he was a lot more powerful and a lot more understanding of the world than the Bible thumper that they thought he was. Um, and that moment when they realized that he was probably a major asset, that quest NPC you shouldn't kill kind of thing, that they kind of like it hit home that they kind of fucked up. And that was really good, he was a good NPC. He was there to help them, and I know that I role played him how he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be really abrasive in the beginning, and if they chose his side or Ichabod died and they let him live, he was going to befriend them, become a mentor to them, help them find the rest of the pages. They would have had a sanctuary to go to at any point in time, which could have been a really interesting plot twist and plot subject for the story afterwards. But they didn't, and they afterwards they realized that they ruined something really good for their characters. They got stuff out of it. I mean, they got his swords and stuff like that, but I think they definitely realized that they could have gained way more stuff if they would have had him alive. And it's good. I mean, they didn't feel that it was so much like a moral issue, but they definitely felt the repercussions of what they did, and that that there was a lot more that they could have gained and a lot more to the story that they missed out on, and that's always really good for players to have. So yeah, awesome night. I was really excited. They were really excited. They wanted to keep going, and that's always a good night and a win on my book. Anyways, that's all. You all have a great day, and catch you next time.